All right. What is up, Keith?
Much. How you doing?
Dude, we're hanging in there. Hopefully we're gonna fix these visual issues, but I think we're gonna be all right. So, all right, thank you for joining us, everybody. So this is episode 2 of the Coalition Podcast. Once again, if we're having issues with the visual again, hang in there with me. I'm still getting things figured out. Um, Broadcasting and streaming was not near as easy as I thought it would be. So bear with me here, but the audio should be pretty good. So, Mr. Keith, Fire and Dice, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good, man, good. It was a busy week, but we made it through. Finally feeling healthy again. So we're back on our feet. So, all right, man, we got a few good things that we're going to be chatting about today. So, first and foremost, I wanted you to go ahead and share a little bit about the giveaway you got going on.
Okay, so I'm doing the 7,500 follower giveaway. I just popped it up. I think it was last Wednesday was when I put it up there, and it just lasts to this Saturday, which is I think we just talked about that. What is it, the 11th? So that'll be the last day you can do entries, and then I'll go ahead and choose the winner on Sunday, and the winner will get their choice between the adult Remoraz or the Treant, both made by WizKids.
Yes, yeah, both of those are badass minis. I think Epic Jim actually just shared his treant that he just posted. It looks freaking insane.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the funny thing is I don't actually have either one of them.
Oh, really?
No, I haven't actually bought and painted either one yet.
Yeah, I painted the Remoraz kind of recently, but that was a fun one. That was pretty cool. It was
Yeah.
a little bit more complex than I thought because you look at it and it's like, oh, it's just blue, and then it's like, okay, it's just blue. But added some of like the heat spikes on the back, which is pretty cool. Actually, so the way that I normally paint things, like the order in which I do things, is I try to paint things that I know that my campaign members are going to be fighting up against in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
So the Remoraz, we're doing Storm King Center, so actually they were going into, no spoilers, a temple there, and they managed to fight it, and it was a super awesome encounter. So I was glad that I got to be able to use that for an actual end session encounter, which was really neat.
Mm-hmm.
So cool, man. Yeah, and then what's the how do you win the giveaway?
Oh, basically, it's just all you have to do is be following the Fire and Dice page, like the post, and tag to your friends.
Sweet.
That's
Awesome.
as simple as that.
Nice. So we also have the D&D Coalition giveaway going on still. It's going to be going on until the end of next week sometime. I want to give a little more space for it, especially because I will be moving next week. So the way that it kind of lined up with everything was in the middle of a lot of chaos. So I just want to make sure to get enough time to draw the winner, make a little video for you guys, and do everything. Obviously, send out all the good stuff. We do have the stretch goals in that one. So if we can get up to 1,500 followers, we will be drawing 2 winners. And then if we get to 2K followers, we will be drawing 3 winners. So fingers crossed, hope to have as much of a turnout as possible.
Right.
So, all right, man. So I know these are questions that I get a lot, and I know you get them probably even way more than I do because you've been doing this for a lot longer than me. But I kind of wanted to make this podcast about this episode about things that can help players. So whether it's in the sense of gameplay, actually starting the game, mechanics of the game, things like that. So I know one question I get all the time is, how the heck do you start a D&D group? What is your intake on that?
That's always a tough thing. I've been fortunate that I have always had friends that have played. My brother plays. My oldest son is part of our main campaigns. So that's 2 of the people right there. My roommate. I have a friend at work. So I've been very fortunate with that. But for someone who's just getting started and they're not sure where to go to have a group and they don't have any friends that play, at least in my area, and it probably does depend on where you live, but game stores are one of the best places to go because most game stores, at least the good ones, they'll actually have tables set up that you can just drop in, and they'll have schedules up of when you can come and play. And
Right.
get together. Or the people leave index cards up there saying, hey, looking for players for Friday nights at 8 o'clock. So that's one of the best ways to do it is going into game stores if you have them locally.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually how I got started back in D&D about a little over a year ago. It was actually it was February 2018. I wanted to start playing D&D. I was kind of new to the St. Petersburg area down here, and I had no idea how to do it. But I did know. I walked into a game store one day that was near my home, and I was like, "Hey, do you guys play D&D here?" And he's like, "Yeah, actually, we do Adventures League every Sunday night." And I was like, "Okay, I want to play D&D. Don't know what the heck Adventures League is." So basically, Adventures League is organized play. With Pathfinder, it was having the organized play with Pathfinder and the Pathfinder Society, which is basically 3.5, is a spinoff of 3.5. But it gave a very good structure so that people could do pickup games. Adventures League is essentially like the pickup game version for 5th edition. And it is actually pretty popular. I think on like season 8 or 9 now. I think it's season 8. And each season kind of has its own background type deal going on. But nonetheless, I started popping in there. They did it actually started with Pathfinder. Started going there every Wednesday night for games. Found out that they did Adventures League on the Sunday night. Started going to the Sunday night games. I actually met one of the guys that's been in my campaign now for over almost a year and a half now.
Really?
His name's Bill. Yep. So we started playing Pathfinder together. And then one day I was like, "Hey man, I really want to do like a homebrew game. Would you be interested in playing?" And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then so kind of rounded up a few other people. And then slowly but surely kind of formulated this like little ragtag group of people. And it's funny because Bill was one of the people that was there from the very beginning. And as time went along, we picked up some people, we lost some people, and to the point where it's at now, it's a group we've been together now for just about 30 sessions. So
that's good.
yeah. So and they're honestly some of my best friends. I mean, it's crazy to see kind of like where life takes you, and you never know what to anticipate, what to expect. So I 100% agree with you there on the go check out the pickup games, because that's a really good resource to have.
Yeah, and it is a little easier like I've known you, like we said last week, we've known each other for probably a little over a year through Instagram and stuff like that and chatting, and I can tell both of us are more extroverts in a sense, so it is easier for us to walk into a game store and just say, "Hey, I want to play with some people and meet new people."
Right.
Introverts, it's a little different. It might be tougher to get up the courage to do that. But the only thing I can say is just give it a try, because most, and not all, but most people in the D&D community are very welcoming. They want more people at the table.
100%.
They want people that are going to play and keep coming back. So they're going to, welcome you with open arms. So I suggest just go in there. If you really want to play and you don't have anybody, just go in there and give it a shot. You try it one night. If you don't really like playing in person, then, at least you tried it. You learned a little bit probably in that first session, and then maybe you can try like Roll20 or something like that online, or going into one of the what are they called, the Discord servers, and getting in games that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the really neat thing about where we're at in, I guess, 2019 with technology, is that if you're not comfortable being in front of people, if you don't want to go out, if you don't have access to it, say you live in a rural area that doesn't really have game stores, or it's just not practical for you to go to them because they're too far away, then hop on Roll20. You can do those sorts of things. You can play over Skype. Really, the possibilities are endless. So yeah, that's a really good point too.
Yeah, and talked about guests that we're going to have on, right? And I think the Lucky Rogue is one of them.
Yeah.
And she's got her Discord server set up, so I know that's probably something that we'll talk about there. So that'll be something to look forward to on an upcoming episode.
Yeah, and Jackie did a really good job with setting up that Discord server, and it's really cool because I haven't spent much time in there, but I know Jackie has one, and then Carrie from Tabletop Crafters has a Discord. I think they're two different ones, but I think they're both in each of them.
There's a few, because I'm also in one with Pickle Dragon, one, and then the other one is called D&D Creators, and sorry, I'll have to check this out, but I don't know who actually started that. I know I'm just part of that one. So there's a lot of good ones out there, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you people out there that are kind of like interested but you don't know where to start, seriously, Instagram is absolutely amazing, and you can kind of like weed through it pretty quickly and find out. Like, there's a lot of people out there, like pages like yourself. I try to be a good resource, but pages you can go to and find out this information. So I know your pages, you do a lot of that stuff. Jackie, the Lucky Rogue, she posts stuff about it all the time. So definitely don't hesitate to go out there and check out some of those pages. Yes.
Great to go to, because like you said, there's just so much information out there, but also there's so many people, and a lot of them are welcoming, and that's how you can meet a lot of people in the D&D community and then get those online games going. Like, that's how we met. I know that's how quite a few people that I chat with have met others through the community, and it's like, I'll know this person who then also talks to that person.
Yeah.
And then it just creates this huge circle of people that end up talking and knowing each other and becoming real familiar with each other.
It's cool. It's really cool. And you said something earlier that I want to make a note on is going to the game stores and picking up. And if you don't know what you're doing, that is totally fine. You will never meet a group of more welcoming individuals that is willing to help you out, willing to teach you. Like, don't worry about embarrassing yourself, because it's literally it's the people are there because they want to help you learn how to play D&D.
Right.
So don't feel uncomfortable for 1 second, because that's just negative thinking, and you don't need that. I mean, this is D&D. We're all here to have some fun.
Man, just give it a try. Just give it a try. That's all I can say to people is give it a try. It's actually the D&D can be intimidating because you have the DM guide, the player's handbook. They're so large, but really, when you break it down, it's actually not that hard of a game to play, because when you go into the world, it's literally do whatever you want.
Yeah,
keep in mind that it's a real working world, and there are consequences to your actions. But really, you can just do whatever you want. If you want to go talk to the bartender and order something, you want to do this, you want to chat with this little old lady sitting at a table, you can do whatever you want. So just try it out. It's actually pretty easy to learn, and the DM and the other players obviously will play off of what you're doing, and you'll pick it up pretty good. Improv is a great tool with D&D.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. It is. Okay, so that kind of brings me into my next question is, so say you got a group of friends, you all want to play D&D, but nobody wants to step up into that role. What if nobody knows how to DM, but you want to play? What would your best piece of advice for that be?
Well, two different things there. If no one wants to be DM, that's a real problem. But if no one knows how, the best thing you can do is, well, I would say two things. One is someone has to just take the time to pick up the DM's guide, skim through it. You don't have to read the whole DM's guide. You can skip over the first, I don't even know how many pages off the top of my head, but at least first 50, 60 pages you can just skip over and just get to the actual rules and running the game. Once you get to that chapter, there's not really a lot to read there. It's pretty light, pretty easy reading, but just pick up the DM's guide. You can even, if you don't have it, you can find it online. All the game rules and how to run the game on there. Just give it a try. Just read up on the rules. You can also, like we were talking about, going to game stores. Go to a game store, and if you just get into a game as a player and watch what the DM does, maybe even pick their brain afterwards, trust me, any DM that you play with in a game store, they're going to be more than happy to discuss D&D with you. And that way you can pick up a lot of tips and tricks from other people, because there's so many different styles out there of how to DM a session or a campaign.
Yeah, that is the most amazing part too, because with Critical Role, and I think we talked about this last week a little bit too. With Critical Role out there, it's kind of set this barrier to entry. Like it's kind of set an illusion that like you have to be an actor, you have to be good at this, you have to have the training, you have to have all this. And that is one way to DM. And Matthew Mercer is an absolutely amazing DM. Probably he's one of my favorite, if not my favorite DM out there. But there are so many other different people out there that have such an amazing, unique way of doing it that are also equally as incredible. And some of the people that some of my most favorite sessions with people that I've had the most fun with have been like no role play at all. Like the DM's not comfortable with the voices, or he just doesn't want to do them, or it's a convention style where you can't really be as animated as you want to. Literally, I will never forget, I had one guy, he had all these minis and stuff set up around the table, and he had like this big map set out. And so I sat down and hit the table, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is gonna be super intense combat. We get some minis. I see he's got a box of train back there. It's like, this is gonna be great. And we sat down, and the whole thing was all theater of the mind. And but I shit you not, I have never laughed harder in a session in my entire life, and it was probably one of the most fun things I've ever played. One of the most fun games I've ever played. So don't feel like you need to be a thespian to be good at D&D either, because that's one way to do it. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Like you said, some DMs, they do complete theater of mind. Some do use all the stuff out there that they can. But still, regardless, I think every DM is going to be using theater of mind to a certain extent. It's just how much where they start picking up on miniatures and maps and stuff like that. But yeah, theater of mind is huge with D&D.
Yeah. Okay, and I actually did post I posted a video the other day that was it was a voiceover thing that I did with a video with my friend, and it was, what if I'm not a good role player? And that is totally fine, because there are so many different types of players out there that are great. And just because you're not an actor or you're not comfortable with doing things like that doesn't mean that you're not going to be a great D&D player. So give it a shot.
Yeah, and to touch on that a little more, like as far as not being a great actor or not being able to do voices, you don't even have to do that. Really, the most important thing when you come to the table as a player is just try and separate you and your player and just speak and act as if you are that player, even without a voice or without quote-unquote acting skills. Just speak as if you are the PC, if you are that human fighter in the game, and speak directly to the other players when you're talking to them. Don't tell the DM, hey, I want to tell Rick over there, I want to ask Rick if I can get this from him, or whatever the case may be. Just say, Rick, I'm looking for the map that you have, and just do it that way, without a voice or anything, but still staying in that character, and it just adds that much to the game. And it just, it sucks everybody into the game and makes it more like they're in that tavern or they're in that dungeon, because they're talking directly to each player. Yeah.
And that's like the best thing, that any DM out there can relate to this, but whenever you hear your players reminiscing about a session, it's never like, oh, Boulevard went over there and struck down that Ramoraz. It was, dude, you remember whenever I went over there and slayed that bitch and got the killing blow on it? And it's like talking like your actual human being went and did that. And I love whenever the players, whenever they're willing to submerge themselves in the game that much to make it feel like it was actually them. So, and I know that's always a good feeling whenever you hear one of your players talk about something like that.
Oh yeah, it is. It's great.
And also, by the way, I saw one of my buddies, Dennis, popped in here. So shout out, Dennis. I appreciate you, my friend. So Dennis actually just recently, I've been trying to work with him and getting coordinated with him and hopping on the same schedule. But he basically one day called me. He's like, hey man, let's start up a D&D group. And how do I do it? And I was like, brother, just hop on Roll20, start playing around with it, and just ask for people if they can do it, and then just go from there. And sure, and I told him to start with the Lost Mines of Phandelver. And sure enough, he did, and it's going pretty well for him. So shout out, Dennis, man. Good for you, brother. I hope you guys are having some fun, and I hope you guys are kicking some ass. So, okay, so the next question I kind of had for you, and actually I guess this kind of relates to Dennis's situation as well. So as soon as Dennis said that he was going to be doing this, like 8 people came out of the woodwork saying like, oh, I want to play D&D, I want to play D&D. So what are some, in your personal experiences, what is a good group size?
It does depend. A lot of it depends on the experience of the players and the DM, more the DM on how well he can run the game, or he or she can run the game. Minimum, I would say 3. Maximum comfortable, at least for me, would be about 8. I have run 9 once, and that was from age ranges of 10 all the way up to, who was the oldest person in it? It was my brother, so all the way up to 48. So it was a wide range of or wide range of ages in that group. And it's the only problem with that is running the game isn't so much that difficult, but it's everybody getting a chance to really role play and really embrace their character, and then battle is a little slower. But if we're looking for a good target, I mean, honestly, I'd say about 5 is a perfect number.
Yeah.
Because you've got a big enough group, and you can have a diverse enough group to really handle yourselves in battle. But you also have, it's also small enough to where each player gets to, play more.
Yeah.
They get to make more decisions. They get to have their voice heard more, and they get to have more turns in battle. So I think 5 is really that sweet spot. Anywhere from 4 to 6 is good, but obviously 5 right in the middle is the sweet spot.
Yeah. What is how many do you guys have in your home game?
I have 8.
8?
Yeah, and I pretty much
crap.
that's where I've kind of put that cap. That was a one shot that we had, the 9, because my friend's daughter wanted to try it, and everybody wanted to play that weekend. So I was like, I hate saying no to anybody to play. So I get myself in that situation with one shots. We routinely will always have 8 or 9 in a one shot because everybody wants to go ahead and try it out. And I'm like, sure, come on over. I don't know if you've seen on my Instagram page, people sit there and say, man, I'd love to play with your group. And I'm like, hey, if you're ever in town, let me know. You can come in as a guest, and I'll bring them in on the main campaign as guests if anybody wants to drop in. I love having new players because it brings a different playing style and just and obviously just meeting people. I love meeting and playing with new people. But yeah, we have 8 in my group, and just like your group, as you were saying, someone drops out. We had a guy move to Pennsylvania, another person drops in. My daughter's boyfriend played with us. They broke up, so of course, he kind of possibly got killed off in the campaign after that. Then another person jumped in, and I think we've lost and regained probably 3 or 4 people throughout the past 13 months that this campaign's been going on.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Let the new players start at the same level that the group is at. I let them know what level it's at. Make whatever character you want, because with 8 people in the group, they don't need to worry about balance. They've got plenty of people. It's more I need to worry about how I'm going to give them a challenge.
So how do you get like background characters, like background threads in there with 8 people?
So I have everybody write up the backstory, whatever they want, however much they want to give me. I have the world built, like 2 continents of it built. So it's just a back and forth when they might say, well, where can I be from? And I'll say, do you want to be from one of these lands or completely distant land? And then we'll go from there. They'll give me their backstory, and I'll start fitting it in on seeing where I can just place it. And it really is just being creative with saying, oh, well, I can tie this into that, depending on what they have, like if they knew their parents or didn't know their parents. A big part of it is if they want to be from that world. Yeah. And if I can narrow it down to a location, then I can give them certain information. I'll take their backstory, and then I'll do a write-up and add to it and put it into their backstory and say, hey, take a look, read this, see what you think, give me any suggestions, anything you want me to remove or not. And it really is that just back and forth. And then throughout the campaign, by chance sometimes and by me just setting the stuff up, those backstories will slowly start to play into the grand scheme of things and the big story as a whole. Yeah. No, and I know there's some games out there that do rely heavy on backstory. Obviously, with 8 people, that's got to be insane. I mean, trying to weave that many people in there. So I'm sure your players really appreciate that, because that's a lot of work on your end. I can't imagine. I have 5, and it's hard enough with 5. Yeah, it is, and it can be tough, but I guess because we've been going through it so long, and it's just been a long process, it's gotten easier over time. It's just funny because we're getting to a point to where everybody's backstories, or not everybody's, but probably about 4 of them, their backstories are really feeding into this heavily. So I'm really excited to see where it's going, and I love to see the players' faces when it's their turn. Like, okay, this is your moment. This is your backstory coming into play. And you can see them really getting into it. And the fun thing is when the rest of the players come to their side and want to help them out in resolving whatever issues may come up with their backstory. Right.
That's awesome, man. Okay, so you mentioned something about your daughter's boyfriend was in there, and then they broke up, so you had to kill them all. So what about if you get together with a group of people and you're a few sessions in, maybe like it could be 3 sessions, it could be 23 sessions. What happens if somebody's not a good fit? I mean, these are your friends that they might be total strangers, which might make it a little easier, but they might be some of your good friends, or people that you spend a lot of time with. And if they're just not a good fit, whether they're not a good mesh with the group, or if they just don't mingle with the rest of the other people, how do you in a cordial way what's the easiest way to kind of phase that out or to address that?
I think keeping communication open. I like to, after our session's over, like we played last night, our session ended at about 1:30, 1:45 in the morning.
I love those late games.
I didn't go to bed till 3 something because a couple people stayed behind, and we talk about it. Like we will talk about it. We'll say, hey, what did you think about this part, or what did you think about that part, or how we handled this, and I'm open to suggestions. So I make it clear to everybody, if you have any suggestions about the game, let me know. You can talk to it about me after the game, before the game, text me about it, and sometimes they will. They'll let me know. Like they thought, hey, so and so, they were taking a little long with this section. Is there any way you could speed that up, and stuff like that? With shopping, when you get to that kind of stuff, or just having side conversations. Because sometimes as a DM, you need to remember that there's that point where you want to allow them to role play stuff, but you've got to remember that there are multiple other people at the table, so you don't want it to take too long.
Yeah,
it's that balance. But as far as the difficult players, keeping that communication open, and just having everyone feel like they can come to you and tell you their concerns. That way they can bring it to the forefront, and then you can speak to those people about it. And I don't want to say confront, because that's always kind of like a negative connotation to it. So my thing is I would contact someone outside of the game, not with other people around, because then it seems like you're attacking them or ganging up on them, right. And just discuss with them whatever the concern may be. Maybe it's an argumentative player that always wants to argue rules. You would have to sit them aside, sit them aside and say, look, you know what, I don't mind you questioning rules or questioning why I made a decision, but once I let you know what that decision is, that's where it needs to end.
Yeah.
And then we continue on with the game. That's how people have more fun. That's how we get more done. If I have to sit there and argue back and forth with you over a rule, other players are going to start getting on their phone. They're going to start losing interest in what's going on until you resolve that, Yeah. Like someone made the quote, arguing when you're in the room and your parents are arguing. And you're just kind of like, go off, you want to just get away from it. So you try and keep that stuff outside of the game, and I say, nip it in the bud as soon as possible.
Yeah. No, that was very well put. I mean, you hit it. What was that?
Have you experienced that already?
I have. Yeah, I have several times, actually. So with the very first group that we started, it was a guy that I got introduced to. He's this like insanely smart guy. He's a lawyer. He's actually one of my best friends. He's some of you guys might have seen him. He comes up on my story quite a bit. Very talented painter. He's literally probably my best friend in real life. But when we get down to the table, he liked he wasn't a role player. Or not the getting into the character, things like that. So didn't do any voices. Would always talk in the third person, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But the rest of the people at the group, they like to take their time. They like to role play. They like to do some quirky voices. They like those little elements of it. And personally, I like it as well. And so we just decided to do something different. We started a different type of campaign, and it was just, once again, communication. And kind of recently, 2 of my players, they're like, hey, we feel like the game's gotten a little bit too serious with especially in combat. We feel like there's a lot of rule arguing. We feel like it's just gotten like too much min-maxing's going on, and it's kind of taken away from the game. And I didn't see that. I, obviously, being behind the screen, everything like that, everything had gone well for 15 sessions. So they brought that up, and I was like, yeah, you're right, actually. That is a problem. And just brought up at the very beginning of this session. I said, hey guys, we've been playing together for a long time. I think it was around like session maybe 25 or something. And I was like, we've been playing together for a long time. We all know each other. I was like, but I just want to kind of cover some ground rules, if you will. And I hate rules, but I just want to cover some things that I feel like we might have lost sight of. And uh, it was like I kind of did just three of them real quick. Was first, we're all here to have fun. If you're not having fun, then what the hell are we doing?
Right.
And if it's something that someone's right on your parade, or if it's something that really just is you're getting lost with, bring it up. Because at the end, we can spend our time doing something else different than playing D&D if you're not having fun. Second one is just respect one another. If somebody's speaking, if somebody's talking at the table, then give them their moment. I encourage everybody to upstage one another. Please do that. But don't ever drown out someone else's voice because of your excitement. Like, I get everybody's excited, and I want you all to be excited, but also I want the person out to be a little more introverted at the table to also have their spotlight.
Right. Yeah. And on top of that, not to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
Absolutely what you're talking about. 100% agree with that respect at the table, especially like during battle when, it's your turn in battle. You're excited. This is your character. You created them. You want to do something big. Be quiet.
Yeah.
When it's someone else's turn, everybody be quiet. Don't say, oh, wait, don't do that. Or, oh, you should do this, or oh, he's going to get an attack of opportunity. Allow that person to make mistakes. Allow that person to make great things happen on their turn. Just let them do their turn. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. And that's kind of on that note. My third rule is we got 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours, once a week or once every other week, however often we play. Let's get as much accomplished in that time as possible.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, everybody has to be involved. Everybody has to pay attention. So whether it's in a role play element, like just try to pay, like even if it's not spotlights on you, just try to pay attention so that whenever it does come back to you, that what's going on, what they just went off and did, or even if it's just like, okay, I fill them in on what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have to spend that 5 minutes filling them in on what just happened. Or even like the number one thing is combat. Is if you have, I get it. Sometimes combat can take a little bit, especially if you have 8 people like yourself. Whenever it comes to your turn in combat, then being like, okay, I know what's going on. I know I need to do this. This guy just popped in over here. Instead of waiting until it gets to your turn and being like, okay, what's up? What's going on? So those are kind of like the 3 that I normally touch on, and it's never anything like don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. I mean, it's all things that I think we can all agree are pretty, mundane and regular.
Yeah. I mean, there's standard things you should kind of practice in life with just being respectful, allowing people to express themselves and take their turn and stuff like that. Yeah, that's something that you should do in general.
Yeah. And okay, so kind of the last question I wanted to wrap this up with today is, you have your session 0, you have a group, somebody's ready to DM, then what? Personally, I think session 0s are an excellent way to get everybody together, get the characters rolled out, and figure out, okay, who's doing what, and just kind of discuss the game beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Do you currently do, or do you ever do session 0s or anything like that whenever you do a brand new campaign?
I guess it depends on the group and their experience. I can do it one of 3 ways, and I think these are probably obviously the 3 most common ways. Is session 0, like you said, that's the first one, and that's just basically getting started. Starting off at level 1. That's option 2. And option 3, which some groups do, is starting off at level 3 because that's when you get all the good stuff. But that I reserve for more experienced groups who really want to just dig into a campaign. And they say, let's just go ahead and start with level 3 so they can go ahead and have a character that's fairly well built right off the bat. But session 0 is great for new players, especially because then they can kind of explore and decide on exactly what they want to be. For those people who don't know all the classes, don't know all the races, you kind of do that. Kind of a race you'll really need, but you don't even have to make someone decide on a race in that first session either, though. if you're just starting off at 0. And it allows them the idea of get a feel for the game, see what kind of game it's going to be, and discussing that kind of stuff. And then they can go from there and decide on what kind of class they want to be. And some people really do just want to help the whole group, so they will pick their class based on what everybody else is doing. And that allows them that opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer in, if there's something you want to play it. I mean, don't be suckered into a role just because, like, oh, well, we need a healer. Well, no, you play what you want to play, and let the DM kind of figure out how to adjust that accordingly. Because at the end of the day, it's just all about having fun.
Yeah. And that's I'm glad you said that, because that's a huge thing. Because like I said, we both have people drop out and we pull another person in that wants to join the group. And the first thing they always ask, especially the experienced players, they always ask me, well, what do they need? And I'm like, well, what do you want to play? That's the bigger question. I want you to be excited and be happy with the character you choose. If you feel like you got to get stuck being a healer or be stuck being a fighter or someone that's always a melee person, if that's not really what you want to be, you're not going to have as much fun. If you love spell casting, and we already have 3 of them, doesn't matter. Be a wizard, be a sorcerer, be that spellcaster. Just make sure it's something that you're going to enjoy playing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the most important thing, man. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, keep it short and sweet. But next time we come on, so this week I'm actually moving into my new home.
Congratulations again.
Thank you. So we might not be on next Sunday, but the following week for sure we can lock down Sunday. We can probably, once I'll get in there, I'll be able to be a little more regular on everything. I'm going to work on figuring out some of the visual stuff. If any of you guys know how the heck this stuff works, I've tested it time and time again. Please direct message me, because I want to figure it out. Because I want to give you guys something that looks really good. And I would like to go ahead and start posting the VOD of these up on YouTube, so that if you miss it live, you can always go back in there, check them out. But these are all things that we will get to, I promise. What was that?
No, I was just saying I'm working on that to see if I can get that uploaded to the YouTube channel, the first one and the second podcast, and then I'll go ahead and put a message out there on the story, that they're ready to be viewed out there.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. And and next week, I think if we can chat about creating your characters, things like that, doing a couple just questions on that front, or next time we come on, and potentially bring in our first guest.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
we can kind of play around with that, figure out who we're going to bring on first. I know you've been reaching out to people. I've been reaching out to several people within the community. I'm really excited because there's some pretty big pages out there that have expressed interest in coming on. So stay tuned for that. But
I think it's a lot of fun to have some people on here, so I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, if you don't mind, anybody out there, if you have questions and topics that you do want us to bring up on this podcast, definitely DM myself or Cameron. We're both more than happy to take your questions, and then we'll discuss it and we'll put it together into some of the shows.
And you know what? Maybe if you have a guy that, or somebody, a man, a woman, whoever, a page that you really like and you really like their ideas on certain topics, mention that, and we'll see if we can get them on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right, Keith, my brother, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for taking the time this beautiful Sunday to come on here and chat.
No, thank you for hosting it.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we'll talk to you soon. We love you very much, and stay tuned, y'all.
All right, take care, people.